Tunisia, May 1943. The desert air shimmers above ancient sand. Through the heat haze a shape emerges, 56 tons of steel, the growl of a Maybach engine. But something is wrong. The silhouette is unmistakable. That angular turret, those overlapping road wheels, a tiger. Every Allied soldier knows that shape, knows what it means, knows to run. But this tiger wears fresh paint, white stars, British markings. The gun barrel swings left. German machine gunners freeze, their hands hover over triggers. Recognition comes too late. The 88mm cannon speaks. The German position disappears in fire and dust. Crews abandon weapons. Officers shout contradictory orders. Radio operators scream warnings that make no sense. Their own tiger, their invincible beast, hunting them. The Tiger tank entered history in August 1942 near Leningrad. It entered legend 6 months later in Tunisia. The Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger OSFE was not simply a tank, it was a statement. Germany had created a mobile fortress that redefined armored warfare. Every measurement spoke of excess and ambition. The frontal armor measured 100 millimeters thick. The 88mm KWK-36 gun could penetrate any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. The weight approached 60 tons when fully loaded. The engine produced 650 horsepower just to move this mountain of steel. German engineers had built something unprecedented. They had built something feared. Allied tankers learned that fear quickly. In North Africa, British Crusaders and American Shermans met Tigers for the first time. The engagements were massacres. A single Tiger could destroy an entire tank squadron before they could get close enough to return fire. The German crews called it turkey shooting. The standard Allied tank shell bounced off Tiger armor like hail off a barn roof. Tankers watched their rounds ricochet harmless. Sly while the Tiger's gun found them with terrible precision. Each hit was catastrophic. Sherman crews called their tanks rondos. 4 hits and you're out. Against a Tiger, they rarely got the chance for a second shot. The psychological impact exceeded the tactical one. Tigers rarely operated in large numbers. Germany produced only around 1,300 Tigers during the entire war. Mechanical complexity and resource scarcity limited production. Yet the mere rumor of Tigers in an area could halt Allied advances. Commanders requested air support. Infantry refused to move forward. Tank crews developed nervous habits. Every distant engine sound became a Tiger. Every hull-down position might hide that dreaded silhouette. German propaganda exploited this terror magnificently. Newsreels showed Tigers crushing through buildings, smashing through trees, shrugging off direct hits. The message was clear. Germany possessed unstoppable weapons. Resistance was futile. But Tigers had weaknesses. The complexity that made them formidable also made them fragile. The overlapping road wheel design trapped mud and froze in Russian winters. The Maybach engine consumed fuel at extraordinary rates, 8 kilometers per 100 liters on roads, less than half that cross-country. Mechanical breakdowns plagued the design. Transmission failures, engine fires, electrical problems. For every Tiger destroyed in combat, 3 more were abandoned due to mechanical failure or fuel starvation. The German maintenance infrastructure struggled to keep Tigers operational. Spare parts were precious, trained mechanics scarce. A Tiger company might field 8 operational tanks from a paper strength of 4. Allied intelligence recognized these vulnerabilities. Captured German documents revealed maintenance nightmares. Interrogated crews described endless mechanical problems. But intelligence reports could not convey the reality of facing a Tiger in battle. Allied tank designers worked desperately to create countermeasures. The British developed the 17-pounder anti-tank gun. Americans pushed forward designs for heavier tanks. But these solutions would take time. Meanwhile, Tigers dominated every battlefield they entered. The balance of armored warfare had shifted catastrophically. Yet the very strengths that made Tigers formidable also made them valuable beyond measure. Every major Allied military intelligence service wanted one. Not photographs, not fragments. A complete, functional Tiger tank. The technical intelligence value would be incalculable. Armor specialists could test penetration capabilities. Engineers could examine the transmission and suspension. Metallurgists could analyze the armor composition. And perhaps, just perhaps, Allied forces could learn to kill them more effectively. But capturing a Tiger intact presented almost impossible challenges. German crews were trained to destroy their vehicles before capture. Demolition charges, thermite grenades, a sledgehammer to the gun site. The Germans knew the intelligence value. They ensured their Tigers would not provide it. The first breakthrough came in Tunisia, April 1943. The North African campaign was collapsing for the Germans. Rommel had already left Africa. The remaining Axis forces were compressed into an ever-shrinking pocket. Supply lines had been severed, fuel was critically short, ammunition dwindling. Tigers that had once roamed freely now sat immobilized, waiting for fuel that would never arrive. British forces of the 48th Royal Tank Regiment probed carefully through abandoned German positions. Titsa. Hey, expected booby traps. Demolition charges. They found something else. Tiger 131 sat silent in a wadi. The commander's hatch was open. The crew had fled. British tankers approached cautiously, expecting an explosion at any moment. Nothing happened. The Tiger had been hit. A 6-pounder shell from a Churchill tank had struck the turret ring. The impact had jammed the turret and wounded the commander. Another round had damaged the periscope. The crew had evacuated under fire, unable to destroy the vehicle properly. For the first time in the war, the Allies possessed a complete Tiger. The recovery team worked through the night. German artillery still ranged the area. Every moment brought the risk of a counterattack or airstrike. Somehow they got the 56-ton beast onto a recovery trailer. Somehow they got it back to British lines. Somehow they had done the impossible. Tiger 131 arrived in Britain in August 1943. The War Office immediately classified it as top secret. A team of engineers and intelligence officers swarmed over every component. They measured armor thickness at dozens of points. They test-fired the main gun into steel plates. They ran the engine through complete cycles. They photographed every mechanical system. The weaknesses became apparent immediately. The transmission was extraordinarily complex and prone to failure. The interleaved road wheels were a maintenance nightmare. The fuel consumption was catastrophic, but the strengths were equally clear. The armor was superior to anything the Allies possessed. The gun could defeat any Allied tank at ranges that seemed impossible. The optics were magnificent. German engineering had created something simultaneously brilliant and flawed. But the British did something unexpected. Instead of keeping Tiger 131 as a static intelligence asset, they decided to make it operational. The decision was controversial. Parts would be almost impossible to obtain. Fuel consumption would be enormous. The risk of mechanical failure was severe. Yet the intelligence value of operational testing exceeded static examination. How did the Tiger handle in different terrain? What were the actual visibility limitations? How did the gun perform in realistic conditions? These questions could only be answered by running the Tiger in field conditions. More importantly, British tankers needed to see the Tiger moving, firing, operating. They needed to understand it as a weapon system, not just as a collection of components. The restoration team faced immediate challenges. German ammunition was in short supply. British 88mm rounds would not fit the German breech mechanism properly. Fuel had to be carefully managed. British petrol had different octane ratings than German fuel. The Maybach engine ran rough initially. Spark plugs fouled. Timing required adjustment. Then there were the optics. German Zeiss gun sights were precision instruments. British technicians struggled to calibrate them correctly. Radio systems operated on different frequencies. Every system required adaptation and improvisation. Weeks of work produced a Tiger that could move and shoot, but barely. Additional Tigers trickled into Allied hands through 1943 and 1944. Another Tiger was captured in Italy near Anzio. American forces recovered damaged Tigers in France after D-Day. The Soviets captured dozens on the Eastern Front, though they rarely shared intelligence with Western allies. Each captured Tiger provided additional data. Comparison between vehicles revealed manufacturing variations. Early production Tigers differed from late models in subtle but important way. Weiss's armor quality declined as German access to alloying materials diminished. Late-war Tigers showed manufacturing shortcuts and simplified components. The Tigers themselves told the story of Germany's industrial decline. By early 1944, the British possessed 3 operational Tigers. The Americans had 2 under evaluation. These were not museum pieces. These were functional combat vehicles. The question became unavoidable. Could these captured Tigers be used in combat? The tactical arguments were compelling. A Tiger could engage German armor at ranges where Allied tanks were helpless. The psychological impact on German forces would be devastating. The intelligence gathered from combat operations would be invaluable, but the risks were equally substantial. Friendly fire incidents were almost certain. Supply of ammunition and fuel would be nightmarish. Mechanical breakdowns could leave the Tiger stranded in German territory, potentially allowing recapture. Yet the potential advantages proved irresistible. Plans were developed, crews were trained, and the impossible became the inevitable. The engineering challenges of maintaining captured Tigers stretched Allied resourcefulness to breaking points. Every component was German. Every part number was foreign. Every maintenance procedure was written in German technical language that resisted translation. British and American mechanics had learned to service Shermans and Churchills with their eyes closed. They knew every bolt, every seal, every tolerance. The Tiger was alien technology. The interleaved road wheel system alone presented unprecedented difficulties. To replace an inner road wheel required removing multiple outer wheels first. A job that took 30 minutes on a Sherman took 8 hours on a Tiger. The Maybach HL230 engine was a precision instrument that demanded precision care. Oil pressures had to be exact. Cooling systems had to be monitored constantly. A single mistake could destroy the engine completely. Fuel became an obsession. The Tiger consumed fuel at rates that shocked Allied logistics officers. A single operational day could require 600 liters. British fuel supplies operated on gallons. American systems used different octane ratings. The Maybach engine could run on Allied fuel, but performance suffered. Knock and detonation increased. The engine ran hotter. Fuel system seals degraded faster with different chemical compositions. Captured German fuel was hoarded like gold. Every liter was accounted for. Every mission was calculated down to the kilometer. The Tiger crews learned to coast whenever possible, to use terrain to reduce engine load, to shut down the engine during any halt longer than 5 minutes. Fuel discipline became survival. Ammunition presented equal nightmares. The 88mm KWK-36 gun used specially manufactured rounds unavailable through Allied supply chains. Captured German ammunition stockpiles provided initial supplies, but those stockpiles were finite and depleting. British ordnance factories attempted to manufacture compatible rounds. The first batches were catastrophic failures. Chamber pressures were wrong. Projectile weights were incorrect. Several test firings resulted in breech explosions that could have killed crews. Gradually, through trial and error, acceptable ammunition was produced. But it was never as good as original German production. Accuracy suffered at long ranges. Penetration capability was reduced slightly. The gun that made the Tiger fearsome became less fearsome in Allied hands. Training crews to operate Tigers required creating entirely new doctrine. Allied tankers were accustomed to speed and maneuverability. Sherman tactics emphasized movement and flanking. Tiger tactics were completely different. The Tiger was slow. Cross-country speed rarely exceeded 20 kilometers per hour. Sharp turns risked transmission. Damage. The tactical approach had to emphasize the Tiger's strengths while minimizing its weaknesses. That meant long-range engagement, using terrain for hull-down positions, letting enemy tanks come to the Tiger rather than pursuing them. British crews trained on Tiger 131 had to unlearn habits developed over years of operating lighter, faster tanks. Some adapted quickly. Others never fully adjusted to the Tiger's ponderous nature. Visibility from inside the Tiger surprised Allied crews. German optics were superior to British or American equivalents. The commander's cupola provided excellent all-around visibility. The gunner's sight was magnificently precise, but the tank was also tall and conspicuous. Camouflage was difficult. The Tiger stood higher than most Allied tanks, making hull-down positions harder to achieve. The engine noise was distinctive. The Maybach's growl could be heard from kilometers away. Experienced German troops could identify a Tiger by sound alone. When an Allied crew operated that Tiger, the sound became a liability. German forces would hear their own Tiger approaching and prepare accordingly. The element of surprise was often lost before engagement even began. Radio communications created another layer of complexity. German radios operated on different frequencies than Allied equipment. Captured Tigers had to be retrofitted with Allied radios to maintain communication with friendly forces. But this meant removing German equipment and modifying the interior. Every modification risked damaging other systems. Early attempts at radio installation interfered with electrical systems. The intercom failed. The turret traverse motor malfunctioned. German engineering was highly integrated. Change one component and 3 others might fail. Eventually, workable solutions emerged, but they were never elegant. Allied crews operated with jury-rigged radio systems held together with improvisation and hope. The psychological dimension of using captured Tigers exceeded all tactical calculations. For German soldiers, the Tiger represented technological superiority and invincibility. It was a symbol of German engineering excellence and military might. Propaganda had elevated the Tiger to mythological status. To see that symbol bearing Allied markings and firing on German positions created cognitive dissonance that paralyzed decision-making. German troops faced with a Tiger had been trained in specific responses. Take cover. Wait for anti-tank support. Do not engage directly with small arms. These trained responses assumed the Tiger was on their side. When it was not, those same responses became fatal. Soldiers took cover and waited for support that could not help them. They did not shoot at the Tiger because Tigers were friendly. By the time recognition occurred, the Tiger had already struck. German officers who encountered captured tigers in combat reported profound psychological shock. After-action reports used language unusual for military documents. Words like betrayal, violation, and corruption appeared. The tiger was supposed to be theirs. It represented German superiority. Seeing it used against them created feelings beyond tactical concern. It was personal. Some reports describe German crews abandoning functional tanks when confronted by an Allied marked tiger. The psychological impact of facing their own weapon paralyzed combat effectiveness. Radio intercepts captured German communications during these encounters. The confusion was palpable. Operators questioned their own eyes. Commanders demanded confirmation and reconfirmation. Precious seconds were lost while German forces tried to process what they were seeing. Friend or foe identification became a crisis for German forces in areas where captured tigers operated. Standard recognition protocols assumed tigers were friendly. The silhouette was unmistakable. The sound was distinctive. Visual identification at range relied on shape recognition. A tiger was a tiger was a tiger, except when it was not. German forces began implementing emergency identification procedures, colored smoke signals, radio challenges, flags, and recognition panels. But these procedures took time to disseminate. Frontline units often had not received the latest protocols. The result was hesitation and confusion. German tanks would hold fire on tigers until positive identification was established. That hesitation gave Allied-operated tigers critical first-shot advantages. The tactical deployment of captured tigers required careful planning to minimize friendly fire risks. Allied tank crews and infantry had been trained for months or years to fear and target tigers on sight. That tiger-shaped silhouette triggered immediate threat responses. British and American forces had to be warned extensively when captured tigers operated in their sectors. Recognition training emphasized markings and painted symbols, large white stars, British roundels, sometimes additional colored stripes or geometric patterns. Radio frequencies were dedicated to announcing tiger positions. Liaison officers were assigned to coordinate movements. Despite these precautions, friendly fire incidents occurred. American tank destroyers engaged Tiger 131 during an exercise in England. Fortunately, they missed. The incident highlighted the dangers of operating the enemy's most recognizable weapon. Yet those same recognition problems provided tactical opportunities. In confused combat situations, German forces would sometimes assume any tiger was friendly. Allied crews learned to exploit this assumption ruthlessly. They would approach German positions at angles that maximized silhouette recognition while minimizing marking visibility. They would move with confidence rather than caution. German troops expected tigers to move boldly. A cautiously advancing tiger would arouse suspicion. But a tiger rolling forward with apparent authority would be assumed friendly until it opened fire. These were psychological operations at the most visceral level. The human brain processed shape recognition faster than detail analysis. By the time German troops registered the Allied markings, the engagement was already decided. The logistical nightmare of supporting captured tigers in combat zones defied conventional military supply doctrine. Every army operated on standardized supply chains. American forces requisitioned American parts through American channels. British forces did the same with British systems. The tigers existed outside these systems entirely. They required German parts that had to be scavenged, captured, or improvised. Maintenance teams traveled with captured spare parts loaded on trucks. Road wheels, track links, transmission components, engine parts. Every component was irreplaceable and precious. When a tiger broke down, the maintenance team had to perform battlefield repairs with whatever materials were available. Sometimes parts were cannibalized from other captured vehicles. Sometimes British or American components were modified to fit German systems. The Tigers remained operational through mechanical improvisation that defied military logistics handbooks. The most documented combat engagement of an Allied-operated Tiger occurred in Italy during March 19th. 44. The British 48th Royal Tank Regiment had been assigned Tiger 131 for forward operations near Anzio. The beachhead was stalled. German forces held commanding positions in the hills. Every Allied advance met concentrated anti-tank fire. Churchill tanks were being destroyed at alarming rates. The decision was made to deploy Tiger 131 in a direct assault role. The plan was simple and desperate. The Tiger would advance on a fortified German position while Allied tanks provided supporting fire from flanks. The Tiger's armor would allow it to close to effective range. Its gun would eliminate German anti-tank positions. At least that was the theory. Tiger 131 rolled forward at dawn. The crew consisted of 5 British tankers who had trained on the vehicle for 3 months. The commander was Captain Richard Ellis, a veteran of North African campaigns. He had faced Tigers from the wrong end of the gun barrel. Now he sat in the commander's cupola of one. The psychological complexity of this reversal was not lost on him. The Maybach engine roared. The 56 tons of steel accelerated slowly toward German lines. German observers spotted the Tiger immediately, but they saw what they expected to see, a Tiger moving toward Allied positions. They assumed it was a German vehicle withdrawing or repositioning. The distinctive Allied white star was partially obscured by dust and mud. Recognition took critical seconds. The Tiger closed to 800 meters before German forces reacted. A PaK-40 anti-tank gun crew suddenly recognized the Allied markings. They traversed their gun frantically. The Tiger's gunner, Sergeant Thomas Wright, had already acquired the target. The 88mm gun fired first. The PaK-40 disappeared in a blast of fire and metal. The concussion wave shattered windows in nearby buildings. German infantry scattered from positions. Machine gun fire from the Tiger's coaxial gun swept defensive positions. The Tiger continued advancing. A German Panzer IV appeared from a concealed position, gun already trained on the Tiger. But the Panzer commander hesitated. The target looked like a Tiger, moved like a Tiger, sounded like a Tiger. The 1-second hesitation was fatal. Tiger 131's gun spoke again. The Panzer IV exploded. The engagement lasted 17 minutes. Tiger 131 destroyed 2 anti-tank guns, 3 Panzer IVs, and multiple fortified positions. German infantry abandoned prepared defenses and withdrew in disorder. Allied Churchill tanks advanced in the wake of the Tiger, exploiting the breakthrough. The German defensive line collapsed, but Tiger 131 did not emerge unscathed. A Panzerfaust team had managed a close approach. The rocket-propelled warheads struck the right side track. The explosion severed the track and damaged 2 road wheels. The Tiger was immobilized. Captain Ellis made the immediate decision to continue engaging from a static position. The gun still functioned. The ammunition supply was adequate. For another hour, Tiger 131 provided fire support while Allied forces consolidated the captured ground. German response was swift and revealing. Radio intercepts documented the confusion and alarm. German commanders initially refused to believe reports of an Allied Tiger. They assumed misidentification or communication errors. When aerial reconnaissance confirmed the reports, the response escalated to higher command levels. Orders were issued to destroy the captured Tiger at all costs. Artillery fire was directed onto Tiger 131's position. Luftwaffe fighter bombers were diverted to attack it. The Germans were not simply targeting an enemy tank. They were targeting a symbol that had been corrupted. The psychological investment in Tiger invincibility demanded its destruction. German forces expended resources disproportionate to the tactical value of a single immobilized tank. The recovery of Tiger 131 became an epic of battlefield engineering. The tank sat in contested ground. German artillery had the range. Recovery vehicles approaching would be exposed to direct fire. British engineers waited for nightfall. Under cover of darkness, recovery teams moved forward with specialized equipment. The damaged track was removed and replaced with spare sections scavenged from another disabled Tiger. The road wheels could not be replaced in field conditions, but the track could be tensioned to run on the remaining wheels. The work took 8 hours. German flares periodically lit the area. Artillery shells impacted nearby. The recovery team worked through it all. By dawn, Tiger 131 was mobile again. It withdrew under its own power, trailing sparks from damaged road wheels, but moving. Another engagement in France after D-Day demonstrated both the potential and limitations of captured Tiger deployment. American forces had recovered a Tiger from an abandoned German position near Caronville. The Tiger had been disabled by engine failure and left behind during a German withdrawal. American mechanics spent 3 weeks making it operational. In late July 1944, this Tiger was assigned to a tank destroyer unit for evaluation in combat conditions. The American crew had minimal training time. They understood the controls but had not internalized the tactical doctrine. The deployment was as much an experiment as a combat operation. The American Tiger was positioned in a defensive role near a road junction. Intelligence indicated a German counterattack would come through this sector. The Tiger was placed in a concealed position with overlapping fields of fire from supporting American tank destroyers. The plan was to allow the Tiger to engage at maximum range while lighter American vehicles exploited flanks. The German attack came at mid-morning. A mixed force of Panzer IVs and Panthers advanced toward American lines. The Tiger crew spotted the German formation at approximately 1,800 meters. The gunner, a former Sherman crew member, found the Zeiss optics almost magical in their clarity. He could count individual vision ports on the lead Panther. The Tiger fired at 1,600 meters. The round struck the lead Panther in the frontal glasses. The armor-piercing round penetrated and the Panther exploded. The German formation immediately halted. Commanders scanned for the threat. They saw the Tiger silhouette, saw the familiar shape. The recognition circuits in their brains screamed friendly, but the tiger had just destroyed one of their own. The cognitive dissonance lasted perhaps 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds allowed the tiger to fire again. Another panther was hit and disabled. Now the German force scattered, seeking cover. Some tanks turned to engage the tiger, others attempted to withdraw. The formation cohesion shattered. But the American crew was not experienced with the tiger's limitations. The commander ordered an advance. The tiger rolled forward from its concealed position into open ground. The move violated every principle of tiger tactical doctrine. The tiger's strength was its gun and armor at range. Mobility was its weakness. A panther at close range could penetrate tiger armor with flank shots. The American commander had not internalized this reality. The tiger advanced 200 meters before a panther, recovering from the initial shock, put a round into the tiger's side armor. The penetration was catastrophic. The interior of the tiger became an inferno. The American crew had seconds to evacuate. 3 men escaped. 2 did not. The loss of the American tiger in France highlighted the critical importance of proper tactical employment. The weapon itself was formidable, but weapons require proper doctrine and trained crews. The British crews operating Tiger 131 had months of training and experience. They understood the Tiger's capabilities and limitations. The American crew had weeks. They knew how to drive and shoot the Tiger, but not how to fight with it. The distinction proved fatal. German after-action reports from this engagement showed interesting perspectives. They noted the Tiger's aggressive movement as uncharacteristic. German Tiger doctrine emphasized defensive positioning and long-range engagement. The aggressive advance marked the crew as likely Allied operators even before the identification of markings. Soviet forces on the Eastern Front captured more Tigers than Western Allies combined. Estimates suggest the Soviets recovered more than 50 Tigers in various conditions. Unlike the Western Allies, Soviet forces regularly deployed captured German equipment in combat. Captured Panthers, Tigers, and other vehicles were repainted with Soviet markings and sent back into action. Soviet maintenance teams became skilled at keeping German vehicles operational despite supply limitations. But the Soviets rarely shared intelligence about these operations with their Western allies. The extent of Soviet-captured Tiger operations remains partially documented. One Soviet Tiger engagement near Leningrad in early 1944 became legendary among Soviet tank crews. A captured Tiger operated by a Soviet crew encountered a German Tiger company during a winter engagement. The Soviet Tiger positioned itself along the German line of advance and engaged at extreme range. The German Tigers returned fire, assuming they were dueling with Soviet heavy tanks. The engagement lasted more than an hour. Both sides fired dozens of rounds. The Soviet Tiger was eventually disabled by a hit to the transmission, but it had destroyed one German Tiger and damaged 2 others. German crews approaching the disabled Soviet Tiger reported profound shock at discovering their own vehicle marked with Red Army stars. The psychological impact of this encounter echoed through German veteran accounts for years after. The effectiveness of captured Tiger operations defied simple assessment. Measured purely by tactical metrics, the captured Tigers achieved positive kill ratios and provided valuable battlefield impact. Tiger 131 alone was credited with destroying more than a dozen German armored vehicles and numerous fortified positions. The American Tiger destroyed 2 Panthers before its loss. Soviet Tigers accounted for uncertain but significant numbers of German vehicles. But these tactical measures only partially captured the true value. The psychological and intelligence benefits exceeded direct combat results. German forces implemented extensive countermeasures after confirmed encounters with Allied-operated Tigers. New recognition protocols were disseminated to frontline units. Tigers were ordered to display colored recognition panels visible from all angles. Radio challenge and response procedures were established. German tank commanders were instructed to visually confirm unit markings before assuming any Tiger was friendly. Gunnery officers were given explicit permission to engage Tigers displaying Allied markings without waiting for command authorization. These measures reduced the element of surprise that Allied-operated Tigers had previously exploited. But implementing the measures required time, training, and communication. Frontline units often operated with outdated procedures. The confusion continued sporadically through the end of the war. The intelligence gathered from operational deployment of captured Tigers proved invaluable for Allied tank development. British engineers had examined Tiger 131 exhaustively while static, but operational deployment revealed weaknesses that static testing could not expose. The transmission failures under combat stress, the fuel consumption under varying terrain conditions, the visibility limitations during rapid turret traverse, the ergonomic problems that affected crew efficiency during extended operations. This data informed British development of the Centurion tank, which entered service late in the war. American designers incorporated lessons into the T-26 Pershing heavy tank program. The captured Tigers served as both enemy intelligence and as brutal instructors in armored warfare reality. German morale impact was documented through prisoner interrogations and captured correspondence. German soldiers writing letters home mentioned the shock of encountering their own weapons used against them. Interrogated prisoners described demoralization when Allied Tigers appeared. The Tiger had represented German technological superiority. It had been a source of confidence and pride. Seeing it in enemy hands carrying enemy markings corroded that confidence. If the mighty Tiger could be captured and turned against its creators, what else was vulnerable? The psychological foundation of German military confidence developed visible cracks. This impact was subtle and difficult to quantify, but it was real and pervasive. The fate of individual captured Tigers varied considerably. Tiger 131, the most famous Allied Tiger, survived the war intact. It was shipped to England and became part of the Royal Armoured Corps Tank Museum collection. Today it remains the only fully operational Tiger tank in the world. It appears regularly at military demonstrations. The Maybach engines still ring after 80 years. The tank bears scars from its combat history. The turret ring damage from the original capture is still visible. Repaired track sections show field modifications made under fire. Tiger 131 is not simply a museum piece, it is a living connection to the men who captured it, restored it, and fought in it. Other captured Tigers had less distinguished endings. The American Tiger destroyed in France was abandoned where it fell. Post-war recovery teams found it too damaged to salvage. Soviet Tigers were generally used until mechanical failure rendered them inoperable, then stripped for parts. Few survived beyond 1945. The British possessed two other Tigers besides 131. One was used exclusively for technical testing and was eventually scrapped. The other was destroyed during an ammunition fire at a testing facility. The rarity of surviving captured Tigers makes Tiger 131 even more significant. The German officers who witnessed Allied-operated Tigers left few direct accounts. Most written records are official after-action reports using formal military language, but oral histories and veteran interviews conducted decades later reveal deeper responses. Former German tank officers described feelings of violation and anger. One veteran stated that seeing a Tiger with Allied markings felt like watching a family member used as a weapon against their own family. Another described it as technological betrayal. These emotional responses exceeded rational tactical assessment. The Tiger had represented more than a weapon. It represented German engineering excellence and military superiority. Its capture and deployment by the enemy struck at German psychological foundations. The broader impact on Allied German technological competition was subtle but real. Germany had entered the war with significant advantages in armored vehicle design. The Tiger represented the peak of that advantage. But the capture and analysis of Tigers accelerated Allied understanding and response. The British 17-pounder gun was specifically designed to defeat Tiger armor. The American 90mm gun followed similar development paths. Soviet engineers examined captured Tigers exhaustively and incorporated lessons into IS-2 and subsequent heavy tank designs. The Tiger's technological superiority was temporary. Its capture hastened the end of that superiority. By late 1944, Allied tanks were closing the capability gap. By 1945, tanks like the Centurion and Pershing matched or exceeded Tiger capabilities while being more reliable and easier to maintain. The historical legacy of captured Tiger operations extends beyond the immediate war. Modern military forces study these operations as examples of psychological warfare and captured equipment exploitation. Intelligence agencies examine them as case studies. Ease in turning enemy assets against their creators. The fundamental lesson remains relevant. Superior technology provides advantage only when combined with proper deployment, adequate supply, and psychological dominance. The captured Tigers demonstrated that psychological impact could equal or exceed tactical impact. They proved that symbols matter in warfare as much as statistics, and they showed that in war, nothing remains permanently owned by one side. There exists a particular cruelty in seeing your own weapon turned against you. German engineers had poured years of effort into creating the Tiger. German industry had sacrificed resources desperately needed elsewhere. German propaganda had elevated the tiger to mythological status, and then it appeared on Allied battlefields bearing enemy markings, hunting German soldiers. The irony was not lost on anyone involved. The weapon designed to prove German superiority instead demonstrated that superiority could be captured, studied, and replicated. The story of Allied-operated tigers reveals fundamental truths about technological warfare. Superiority is temporary. Today's unbeatable weapon becomes tomorrow's museum piece. The tiger dominated battlefields for perhaps 18 months. Then Allied countermeasures emerged. Better guns, better tactics, better tanks. The German advantages eroded and disappeared. The captured tigers accelerated this process. Every hour of operational testing provided data. Every combat engagement revealed weaknesses. The tigers themselves taught the Allies how to defeat tigers. But perhaps the deepest lesson is psychological. The tiger crews who operated these captured vehicles understood they were not just fighting battles, they were making statements. Every engagement said the same thing to German forces. Your best is not good enough. Your symbols are not sacred. Your technological superiority is an illusion. This psychological dimension of warfare persists today. Modern militaries study captured equipment operations not just for intelligence value, but for psychological impact. The principle remains constant. Turning an enemy's weapon against them strikes deeper than mere tactical advantage. The German officers who stood speechless watching their tigers attack German positions understood this instinctively. They were not simply watching a tactical problem unfold. They were watching their certainties collapse. The tiger was supposed to be invincible. It was supposed to be theirs. Both assumptions proved false. In that moment of recognition, when the mind processed the impossible reality, something fundamental shifted. The war was not unwinnable for Germany. That had been clear for some time. But the captured tigers made defeat personal and visceral in ways that maps and casualty reports never could. The beast they had created was hunting them, and there was a terrible justice in that.